Welcome, everyone, to the Spiritual Forum. So glad you're here. I just want to give a shout out to everybody out there who's listening. So glad you're with us and on the spiritual journey. This podcast is about faith and hope and awakening and just being on the spiritual path and listening to all sorts of people and all the different spiritual journeys they've been on, all the different ways they experience God, the divine source, and what they're doing in the world. So if you like this podcast, go to rate this podcast / the spiritual forum and give me a positive rating and review, or email me at revcarolsaunders@gmail.com and let me know what you think. And I'm looking for people who are being love in action out there in the world. I know my guest today is one of those, and I'm looking for more who are out there loving people, being love in the world, and giving and being in service to the world. So if you're one of those people, you do not have to be an author. You do not have to be a famous person. You do not have to have a modality or be a healer. Just email me and let me know, because I pretty much talk to anybody who wants to tell their story. Let me tell you about my guest today. I'm so excited to have Vonettia Calloway with me. We connected months and months ago, actually a year ago, after I did my first retreat is when we connected. Yep. And so let me tell you a little bit about her. With over 20 years of teaching, mentoring, tutoring, and counseling experience, Vonettia Calloway is committed to empowering children and adults. She holds a BS in liberal arts with minors in behavioral science and biology, along with 2 master's degrees, one in secondary education and the other in special education. She began a doctoral program in nutritional healing with the College of Natural Health and Organizational Leadership with Liberty University. Vonettia is the founder of the Black Vegan Experience. The Black Vegan Experience is a multicultural educational conference, celebration of African American ancestry, and networking event where Black professionals and practitioners address the medical concerns of the Black community and remove the stereotypes that are attached to veganism and Black culture. She's also the director of the Committee of Consciousness, which was formed to host this inaugural event and to support BIPOC plant-based awareness and prevention, self-care, and better care for the earth. Welcome, Vonettia.
Thank you for having me today, Reverend Carol. I'm excited to share. I love sharing my testimony. That's basically all it is. And my little light, I'm just praying that it's shining everywhere where there's darkness, whether it be in a bowl that somebody shouldn't be eating or in a classroom where the kids are cutting up. And so ironically today, we're talking in the school building where I'm working right now. It just makes sense to just stay here after the tornado warning was released and just connect with you and your listeners. So thank you for having me again. And I'll just jump right into my journey, my spiritual walk. I actually grew up in church. My grandmother is resting in power and peace. And her name was Bishop Judy Dale Johnson Jones. She evangelized over 25 years and pastored over 15 years. And of course, growing up in church, when you have family members that are clergy, you become so many titles. You wear so many hats, from Sunday school teacher to treasurer and secretary and vacation Bible school leads. And I just felt like I was always serving and never really being poured into. So after, working under her, learning under her my whole life, I branched out to go to a couple of other French churches that were closer to home because we always traveled an hour, at least 1 hour to my grandmother's church. And even when I went to school, away to college, I would drive the hour and a half one way just to be there and support her. But again, we have to be poured into so we can continue to pour out. And I just love the opportunity to connect with people that did not look like me. And actually in my home church in Salem, we were the only Black family that went for quite a while. And I did not care. I felt the love through the doors, like firsthand. And I feel like that is one of the pieces that we miss so much, is the interconnectedness between us as humans. And I love getting to know my fellow brothers and sisters, their different likes, interests, and how their spiritual journey began. And that was where I had my first mission assignment, where I got to travel out of the area.
May I have your attention, please? If any back to the building, take 95 north to go home. You might want to look into an alternate route. An accident on 95 north, just north of Colonial Heights on 95, and there is a backup.
And there you have it. If you're in the Virginia area, don't take 95 north. Listen, God just continues to reroute us so that we are having our steps ordered. So there you go. But yes, it was a great, I got to go to do some relief work with Hurricane Katrina and meet other people that were centered in faith and just see more of the world and be the body of Christ. And that wasn't my first opportunity. It's definitely not going to be my last. But I definitely have been walking this thing out probably since I was about 12 years old. I'll never forget just being in a service that was just so spirit filled and amazing that I just reeled with what they say that whole what is it called when you have a hangover? I had a spiritual hangover for days. Like I've never really been drunk. I felt like that was just not my path. I came from a background with family members who had drug and alcohol issues. So that was not for me. I'll just be a high on Jesus. And I tell people all the time, I don't need that other stuff. I'm high on life. And it's just been my walk. But I'll tell you, it was amazing. And even though I was tempted right after, I just knew that I was set apart. Did not understand that just because we're believers that we were not going to have an easy life, that we wouldn't still be attacked, whether it be inside our home, outside our home, friends, family. But again, this whole life walk has been amazing. I thank God for the trials, for the tribulations, because it has grown me. I've had the pleasure of leading, students into the prayer of salvation. When I taught at private Christian school, I've had the pleasure of leading people to Christ in my everyday walk, or praying for them, just being in the grocery store, being available. That's all God calls us to do, is to be available, because he equips those whom he sends. And it took me a while to catch on to that too. Did some work at the Pregnancy Health Center. And I believe that was the first place that I felt like I learned that I can let go. I guess because when you grow up in certain environments, it's important to see that you made a difference.
Mhm.
And that was where I got stuck. It's like, I don't get to see these ladies after they leave here, or someone that I may have prayed for, or someone I may have, taken something to, fed, or whatever the case may be, offered them a night at our home. And I remembered our director at the time, Carla, saying, Vonettia, you have to remember, we're not responsible for the results, only sowing the seeds. And that is forever stuck with me. And even in my head, when I felt like I couldn't be the one to lead them in the prayer of salvation, to just use my words. Don't think about other people and how they speak and how they lead. You use the resources that God has already provided you. And it just became a natural conversation, which is what it should be in the first place. We shouldn't have scripts to pray for those. We shouldn't have scripts to lead them to Jesus. We should not have scripts just to have a conversation. It should be heartfelt, and it should come from our authentic selves. And been serving the Lord my whole life, I think. Funny story, because I don't know how much I'm supposed to gab, witness. But I remember my faith walk started really, really young, and it began with the Cabbage Patch doll. Our pastor at the time, years ago, was Bishop Boysall, and he was from Max Meadows, Virginia. I mean, we were country churches. They still had an outhouse like out there. It's so fun. And he asked for a prayer. He did an altar call. He asked for prayer from all the folk in the church house. And I remembered that there was a Cabbage Patch doll I wanted at Hills department store. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Hills. It's old school, kind of like Kmart on this east side of the world.
Okay.
And they had it all, I remember the display like it was yesterday. And my mom had told me she couldn't get me one because they were really expensive when they first came out, $40 or $50. And I said, well, I want this Cabbage Patch doll. So when he said who had a need, I got in line for prayer. And they said, well, what did you want? I said, I'm in line to stand for this Cabbage Patch doll. And I remember him saying, my, do y'all know what she came up here for? So anyway, I asked for the Cabbage Patch doll. And, I've learned since then that Santa Claus has a different title in different homes. And so I don't want to, spoil anything for young people that might be listening, but I knew that I may not get one for Christmas. And my mom was very honest with me and told me that she did not have it. And I think it was way before my stepdad passed away, but it was just some things that, families were going through. It was back in the 80s. And she filled out a sweepstakes. And I remember going back to testify, quote unquote, as my little 6-year-old self, that I didn't get one Cabbage Patch doll, I got two.
Oh
And
my.
I'll tell you, I had faith then, and I still have faith. I believe the same way then as I do now. Probably a little, probably in the eyes of so many, like naive, not with naivety, but that's just my heart. That's what I've experienced. That's what I learned. My grandmother taught me how to love people. My grandma taught me about faith. She taught me about holding on and persevering. And at my 6-year-old self, I believe that if God said he could do something that I can't do, he could. And so my mom won a Cabbage Patch doll for me, and she also had the money to buy one. And I'll never forget that as long as I live. And just imagine how much that catapulted my faith at a young age. Like I just knew God could do anything,
Wow.
and that he answers children's prayers. And so that was just
Wow.
fun for me. Yes. So over.
I love that. Yeah, I always tell people, I mean, Santa Claus is the spirit of giving. It's the spirit of Christmas. And it's not like so it's real. Like, the spirit of God is real in this whole giving of Christmas. Yeah. But did you ever have any kind of loss in faith? You seem like a person that is so rooted in love and faith. And I know a lot of people who are pastors' children who had lots of questions or left the church or rebelled against the church and all of that, but it seems like you may not have.
I mean, I was an adolescent growing up in church, and so there were things that I was telling other young ladies to stay away from that I actually had migrated to myself. Like I became a teenage parent, but I also had a mom that, well, my stepdad passed away, and my mother ended up on drugs, and so
Mm.
we were not sheltered, and we had exposure to things that a lot of people would not believe or understand. And I do remember there were so many times where I was like, if there's really a God, why are you allowing this to happen to us? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why isn't my mom home? We wouldn't see her for days at a time. And I remember praying a prayer that I prayed for God to take her life while she was back in the church, if that was
Mm.
going to keep her, on the path to heaven, because I know and understand the Bible and what he calls us to do. And that was one of my prayers as a young person. Like, one, it was going to remove us from this pain of the unknown. It was going to put us in a place where we would be protected and all of our utilities would be on, and food would be in the refrigerator. And then I had to be reminded, and you never know when God sends you those winks. It's just that he'll remind you of them, or what he's already shared in his word or through others or situations. And I remember I've seen so many people in my years of, attending church that would get in the prayer line over. It would be every Sunday service, every Wednesday service. And a lot of times my mom was one of those people. And I remember talking to God about it, and it was like, well, why in the world are you back in the line if you were just in the line?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the Lord had to remind me, that's none of my business.
Mm-hmm.
That's none of my business. Wherever they are, that's their walk,
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn how to, again, let go, because I'm not in control. And again, thank God that they're taking that stand. They're showing the courage to come before, basically people watching them and judging them, to ask God for what they need, and have an intercessor there. And so I feel like it waned a little bit during those times, but also that, God is faithful, because my mother has been clean. She has not used crack cocaine for over 20 years, as far as I know, and has been a pillar in the community. She's a little bit of a gossip at times. I'm sure it'll get back to her somewhere. But she's always been known as Sister Cricket, and she's always ready to pray. I feel like, to myself, she probably has a song of prayer more than I do, because she just does. This is what she likes. She loves to pray. But other than that, I can't really say it waned. I will say that I got frustrated with God through these experiences as an event organizer and nonprofit director. I felt like why in the world am I feeling belittled and embarrassed and ashamed? I felt like I was begging for monetary support and for people to even just stand with me and help spread the word, because obviously, marketing is expensive, and it takes a lot to get the word
Mm-hmm.
out, unless we're doing something to dishonor, our names and our legacies. And again, it's like, oh God, why is it so hard just to love people and empower them? And because we have an enemy that works full time. He never sleeps, and he's at his job. And so we have to just continue to stay the course, even when it means we have a day where we just cry out our prayers, and that's okay.
I love your steadfast faith, and I love that you're loving the world. It's so obvious. Before we got on, you were telling me that you were you start the day by telling people that it's going to be a good day.
Yes, it's a good day. It's a great day. Every day you wake up, it's a great day. And it's like, dang, well, what do you say to that? It's a great day. Yep, sure is. You can tell the people that need to hear it, and then those that are like, oh my gosh, here she comes. I'm gonna get this
Here she comes. Don't mess with my bad day. I want to have a bad
I'm
day.
trying to be agreeable.
But I mean, yeah, it is true. We make it the good day. And as long as we're open to the goodness of the day, we'll see the goodness of the day.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I believe I learned this a while back, but good morning is a derivative of God morning, which again, the day
Yeah.
that the Lord has made, I will be glad, I will rejoice in it. So the day belongs to God. He's the one that created it. So if we give back the glory and honor to him for us waking up because we didn't have to, then of course, then your thoughts are aligned with life, so. But that can spin off into a whole lot more philosophy. So
Yeah, we could go off over there for a while. I want to come around to the Black vegan experience and have you kind of explain what that is and how you were inspired to do that, and what your goal is, or how spirit is leading you in that.
wow. So I'll say I love telling the story from the beginning because it gives me my timeline. I think in pictures is what I was told. So the whole event was born over a Vitamix demonstration in Costco. My youngest son was having oral surgery, major oral surgery, and of course, I couldn't let him not have his nourishment. So we were going to get the Mac Daddy of all blenders, the Vitamix, and
Mm.
we ran to Costco. And as we were centered around this Vitamix demonstration being provided to from one of the, the demo folk, I engaged in conversation with a young lady who was an RN and met her husband who was a naturopathic physician. My daughter was present, who's a nutritionist. Here I am, a teacher, and she's sharing about the fact that her trainer and her doctor were all plant-based and they were Black women. I'm like, wait a minute, like I really thought this was just me. And my whole journey with veganism started with the Daniel fast, which even a lot of believers don't know about, even though it's centered on Daniel in the Bible. And, we could talk about that in a backtrack moment. But so we were engaged in this conversation. I had heard about some hospital-led conferences, plant-based conferences that had happened in our area or, near to, that I had not been able to participate in because they were usually held in September. And in September, I'm in the classroom. And so when I had met with this young lady and her husband, I had asked them, had he attended? And then they said, yes. I'm like, well, has it become diverse? Because I kind of felt like it had not been based on the people who had initially shared it with me. Actually, someone shopping at Whole Foods that did not look like me, but I was really appreciative of the information. And when she told me that it had not changed, and I think the first time I heard about it was 4 or 5 years before that moment, it was like, wow, that's really discouraging with the fact that health disparities plague Black and brown communities at the rate that they do. And I said, well, if they want to invite us to the conference, we'll create our own. And during that conversation, that's kind of like where it was, yes, let's just do our own. And I didn't even realize the miracle in and of itself from November, like literally the week before Thanksgiving, to March 14th, we were ready to go.
Wow.
Because I didn't even know like there's supposed to be this timeline to put together a conference and, to do the budgeting, to do the marketing, to get your speakers and entertain. I had no idea. I was just going by faith. When I spoke it, I immediately saw the vision for it and how God wanted it to look. And it's so cool, to see what it's supposed to look like and know that we haven't even scratched the surface of where it's going. But, everybody kept asking me, and it's so frustrating. Not just for me, but for them. It's like, what do you need me to do? What are we supposed to be doing? And it's like, I don't know. I can't tell you. I have to show you. I have to see it. And so finally, like we got down to the wire maybe the week before. And it's like, what is this supposed to look like? Where are the seats going? Where? And so when you look at it from the stage, everything is in a horseshoe shape because it's like a hug. your arms encircling someone. And so that's just what I felt. It's about togetherness. It's about empowerment. Of course, it's networking. Of course, we're going to make sure our communities are educated on how they can improve their health through vegan lifestyles. But at the same time, you are not going to reach anybody by beating them over the head about what they're doing or not doing. It's all with love. And so I hope and always believe that that's the first thing that they feel is the love that is exuding from our hearts about reaching them and letting them know that they are cared about and not forgotten, because a lot of communities do feel that way because they're not intentionally sought out. So that was born. And so a lot of people would then ask me, wow, are you sure you want to call it the Black vegan experience? A lot of people are going to feel excluded. And I'm like, well, the focus is to reach people that have been excluded. It is not exclusive to anyone else. It's just we're going to make sure that we are targeting these communities that need that support, the Black and Hispanic communities that are dying at ridiculous rates from things that they could prevent if they change their diet and their lifestyles. And so I always give this example, Reverend Carol, about, the Black vegan experience, because again, people would say, well, why can't you just call it the vegan experience? I said, wow. And it was my neighbor and I love her to life. And I said, close your eyes. And she was like, okay. I said, think of the word veganism. And she was like, okay. I said, who do you see? She was like, oh, mainstream America is growing now. But when you heard veganism 3-4 years ago, you didn't see a Black woman with locks. You would think of wealthy white women most of the time. You think of the yoga, you think of, the lifestyle that kind of goes with that. You didn't think that's something you could access or was for you. That's not something that's talked about in our culture. I never went to a yoga class until I heard someone else talk about it, and they invited me, and she was Indian. And it was like, oh, okay, I get it, So again, if you are trying to reach communities who, because of the social and racial constructs in the United States, do not feel something pertains to them, then you have to get their attention. And you think about a flashing billboard sign off the highway, one of your major highways, the 10, I think is that way. And so you're going down the highway and you see an exit, like right past the billboard. It says the vegan experience this way. If you are not connected to mainstream America or anything like our Indian friends who participate in mostly vegetarian lifestyles, you're going to keep on down the highway, and you still might not stop because you're not interested in it. It's not your group of people. But if you saw a sign that said, especially all your Black and Hispanic folks, don't keep on going, natives too, the Black vegan experience this way. What? Black people are vegan? What's the Black vegan? Well, that's interesting. Let me go ahead and I'm going to get off the exit. Well, if you're making your way towards this event and you begin to hear the sounds and you begin to smell the flavors and you begin to see the people and they're having a good time, it looks good, it smells good, it's probably going to taste, going to be an amazing experience. You might not only grab a ticket and have a seat, but you might tell a couple more people to come and join you and have the most amazing time and organically learn something that empowers you to go out and make an informed choice about your future life. And that is what it's all about.
Yeah. So when did you become vegan?
It's gone on 4 years, August, let's see, 4 years this coming August.
And what caused you to go vegan?
Well, it started with the Daniel fast. I was teaching at a private Christian school, and I could not understand why I could not make the leaders there happy. And I'm telling you, I went through some physical issues with anxiety, panic attacks, because I was just trying to do it the right way. When I thought of a Christian school, I'm thinking about discipline and Bible and structure. Disciples have to be disciplined, and it just wasn't adding up to me. And so I wasn't doing well. And I was like, God, I have no idea what is happening. And, I had faked a lot of fasts in my past. Growing up in church, and I think we all learned how to fake a fast. Yeah, I'm going to fast Brussels sprouts this week. That is what I'm giving up. And daggone well, you do not eat Brussels sprouts. But so I faked a few fasts in my past. And I remembered our pastor had talked about it. And I did not know it was as big as it was and how collective it had become at the beginning of the year for most churches. But I remembered our pastor talking about it for once. And I probably ignored it in the past because it's like I had a relationship with bacon. I ain't fooling with that. But that's where it was. It was like I did not hear it, right? Because it didn't pertain to my needs at that time. But while I was teaching at this school and I was doing my best to honor God and I wanted to reach these young people for Jesus, and be the example that I felt like they need to see lived out, I said, God, what else is it that I can do? Like, I have done everything I can besides compromise who I am. And, I began the Daniel fast with that in mind. Like, I am seeking you. I'm giving up all those idols. I'm coming to you alone. And I know in your word, you say some things will only come through fasting and prayer. And I understand now why that is so, because your whole focus, all of your intentions are placed on God, no distractions. And it's also, you're sacrificing something for him to reveal something to you that is precious and a secret to everyone else, if you will, because there's so much revealed knowledge that came from that. And during that time period, the Lord revealed to me that I would never receive an answer from them. And I would never understand from that perspective, because what I was fighting against was not flesh and blood, it was spiritual warfare. And I immediately had peace as soon as he spoke that to me. And we kind of like, at the end of the fast and all those things came, and it was bittersweet because it's like, oh, can't wait to get back, because you abstain from alcohol, you abstain from bread, you abstain from all, the meat that you consumed, and sugar. So it was like, wow, like this is not just vegan. This is going to be the most disciplined eating you ever had.
Healthy vegan.
Yes. raw for the most part. And so I did not resume eating the things that I ate in a in a gradual process. I just kind of went all in and kind of forgot that our digestive tract was a funnel. And so what happens when you put too much in the funnel? It gets stuck or it pours out the side. And I thought I was going to end up in the emergency room. And my poor husband, I called him and I said, babe, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to go to the bathroom. And he was like, I love you. And I will come in there if I have to, but I will not talk to you for a few days. It's just like, well, I guess that's fair. But it all worked out, but I ended up suffering from rectal bleeding and internal hemorrhoids for a whole year, like the rest of that year. And obviously anybody could just imagine how horrific that was, just not wanting to go when you already had issues and going. And so I had already contacted a GI doctor. I had a surgery scheduled, and Daniel fast started before the surgery date. And we were on it. Like, we had committed to doing this every year, at least my daughter and myself. I can't say the whole household did it with us. But a few days in, I was like, oh, okay, that's not as uncomfortable. And a few more days in, it was like, oh my goodness, everything is da-da-da. And it's like, you just hear the VA knock from heaven, like, Vonettia, this is for you. And it was like, oh. And so since then, it's been my path. And we were vegetarian from that point on. And then I think Tabitha Brown had done a vegan challenge that August. And my daughter was like, Mom, we just need to go ahead and just do it all the way, because I don't think I can eat cheese anymore anyway. So we might as well just jump on it while we have that support. And
wow. So it sounds like your health got back in a good place.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yes, absolutely, in a great place. And I was one of those folk. I still suffer from or overcome iron deficiency anemia. It had nothing to do with me changing my lifestyle. I was that way probably from my origin. I don't know. But that and my energy source. And I also had major GI surgery in 2012. So I already had things I was combating with, what do they call it? The malnourishment or deficiencies that come from having a reduced stomach. But after this, I did not have to struggle the way that I had struggled. And I feel like God allowed me to co-create with him when it was these different dishes and, foods. And then like people would just be drawn to us while we were doing our grocery shopping. And even to the students who I was teaching, like they were just so intrigued about what it was that we were trying that day and how it tasted. And of course, I didn't have the same restrictions there that I would do in a public school. So I got to share everything that I was fixing. And it was just really, really an amazing experience. And I'm so thankful, one, that God empowered me to do that and gave me the mindset to go at it with everything I had. But now I get to teach other people about it and how powerful it can be in their life.
Yeah, and you're a good teacher. I've participate in one of your seminars where you taught us, and it's like, wow, she's a good teacher. I would love for you to teach anybody I know. You really are good. So what is your motivation? Is your motivation mostly health, or is it spiritual, or is it biblical, in terms of the vegan thing? And then also, what is your motivation for the Black vegan experience?
So my motivation, I think overall is going to be, it's spirit led. God is our source. Even before we transitioned to veganism, I took taking care of the planet that I could control very seriously. My children grew up with the 4 bins by the back door: paper, plastic, tin, and glass. Like, it was not, we're going to be wasteful. Those that we did not litter. Like, I taught, because, again, that revealed knowledge that God gives you. I remember that was a time where I was like, people, it was with my kids, or someone asked me, well, what's the big deal about littering anyway? And it was basically, when God gave Adam control of the garden of the earth, it was to have dominion and to care for it. So we are supposed to be good stewards while we're here. This does not belong to us. And we're supposed to leave it better than we found it. But again, so many of us have fallen away from Christ that it's just get whatever you can get, how you can get it. And unfortunately, until he comes back, we won't see some changes. But I can do what I can do, and I can teach those in my area of influence, that's the best thing to do. Take care of our animal friends as best you can. Take care of the earth as best you can. You control your environment and make sure that you're honoring God in everything that you do. And so our connection to, all things God should be the same reflection. Even to, I remember there was one time that I was on my way home, and we have a lot of trees. We live in a really wooded, beautiful subdivision. And there was this little squirrel that just kept running in front of the car, like, move, friend. And I hit him, and I hit the bump, and it was like, oh, well, he doesn't have a soul. And immediately God chastised me and was like, but you did not create him.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, sorry, Dad, never again.
Wow. That's really profound. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm fascinated by Christians who don't see the soul in the animal, and who look at God gave us all of this for us to just enjoy. And there's a lot of Christians that just cannot see that the garden we were in harmony. And they focus on, like, after Noah and after the flood, God allowed people to have meat, and so they focus on, well, God gave us meat. And it's like, well, that's not the original intention at all.
They were the sacrifice for us,
Yeah.
And even if you can, doesn't mean that you should.
Exactly. Even if you can, it doesn't mean that you should. And everything is designed perfectly. Our bodies are designed to eat life, not death. And it's right there. But it is interesting. I have I shouldn't say most, but a lot of challenges with strong Christians who are convinced that these animals are here for us. And I go, I don't see that in the Bible anywhere. So anyway,
there's a scripture in there that, and I have to find it because I have not read it in a long time, but it's, once you bless your food, that it's covered, basically. But again, can I say that I read the context around it, around the whole thing? Probably not as much. I would like to go back and study that to make sure that when I am out and about sharing, that I am accurate in however God was speaking to us.
Yeah, well, let me know when you find that.
Absolutely.
I'll look into that too. So then you're taking your personal experience from the Daniel fast and your experience with your health and the earth and how God is leading you. Did God then just give you the idea to create the Black vegan experience?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Like, as soon as I spoke the words out loud, he gave me the image for the whole event. So I saw it from the stage. I saw the way the people were going to be positioned, the way our vendors were going to be, accessing the space, having the medical component of health assessments done on site, for those that are in the communities. Well, my godfather had a heart attack. He did not know he had diabetes. And my godfather doesn't look like me. He has blue eyes and brown hair. I think most of it's gray now. But again, I care about him just as much as I would anyone else. And when I thought about that, I was like, wow, I'm so glad. Even though we have not been able to exact it the way that I have the vision for it, we're working on it. We're still growing towards that. So our patrons would come, and whether or not they have bought a ticket or not, they get to have a health assessment by either a medical doctor or a medical student, a medical assistant, someone in the medical field that can say, take this form with you, especially if they have some numbers that are saying you're borderline stroke or heart attack situation, take this to the free clinic or crossover clinic or whatever it is that you can go to for some free healthcare if you don't have a healthcare provider, and get yourself checked on, take care of you. Self-care is important, but a lot of us were not taught what self-care meant, and how you maintain it once you, achieve it. And so that's a big deal to me. And again, making sure that people see the power in all of that. Having a blood mobile, I learned a long time ago the cystic fibrosis plagues, our white friends, and sickle cell anemia plagues our Black friends. And so it's like, well, they still need help. I can't donate a lung right now, but if I had to, I would. But blood, even though I'm anemic, I feel like there are times where I could have done better with that before it got, my levels got, I guess a little bit worse as I got older. But now with the intake of the different, nutrients that come from the plant life, it's been different. So even though I might be low, I still have my energy and things like that, and it balances out eventually. But to say that the blood mobile was supposed to be there so that I could attend to the need of those that need blood. So the blood drives have gone, and there's no blood for people to even, for the Red Cross to donate in so many communities. Because of COVID, people were inside, they were afraid to come out, they were told to stay inside and protect themselves. And now all of our friends and families out there that need blood don't have it available to them. You could be saving lives by donating to those that have sickle cell. So again, that's an issue in the Black community we needed to raise. So guess what Vonettia was trying to do? Have the blood mobile on site to go along with the health assessments. Has it happened yet? No. But
Okay, that's part of your vision.
I'm still going to keep pushing that it takes place because it's important.
Okay, so the Black Vegan Experience is an event, is that correct?
It is an event. And so what it's supposed to look like, Reverend Carol, is a marriage between a cookout, family reunion, and a conference, a mini conference. So you don't want to overburden people. Like I'm in the classroom every day. You can tell when you have that glazed over look that I've lost them, right? And so for someone that's new to this information, we don't want to lose them. We want it to be just enough for them to feel like they have enough information to go either research it further or to take a next step. And so that's why it's a mini educational conference married to a vegan festival. But we want everyone to feel like their family.
Okay, so you have a health assessment, you have food.
Absolutely.
And then you have some like a mini conference. You have speakers or something like that, or education going on.
Yes, we have the science behind it. Like Dr. Mills has been an amazing, part of the event. Other plant-based physicians. We have other speakers, producers. Jasmine Leva, we have the cooking demos, we have the food samples, we have the vendors, plant-based, and then those are just that have other wares that are eco-friendly, animal-free. And let's see, the connectedness, let's see, services, those that let you have young people, the obesity level has increased because so many are inside. They're not playing outdoors. So now we have, youth centers or someone that has a dance club or different organizations that come together, nonprofit and otherwise, who can offer services to empower families, health, wellness, wealth training. Like again, I published a coloring book in the spring of this year called My Color is Coconut, and it was written in the memory of my friends who lost their children in a house fire last year. So once the Black Vegan Experience was launched, God came back to my heart and was like, hey, Vonettia, we got this going. So now let's talk about our biracial families. They're not going to connect to being white or being Black because they're a combination of both. Let's make sure that they know that they're invited and that they're just as, important. And so I had invited all of my students that I had that year to come participate in the showcase. And COVID happened. And then after COVID, when we tried to do the relaunch, they were not comfortable coming out so soon for the relaunch. And so my friends who happened to be an interracial couple lost their children. And, I went to visit with them during, this time of loss before the funeral service. And of course, you want it to be as positive as you can. There's no words that you really can find to console someone who loses a child, small children, period. And so, God gave me the words. And during that time, she shared a story about her baby girl, Anaya, and it was about her shade, her color, her skin color. And she said that whenever people would ask her what color she was, she would say, "My color is coconut." And they would try to correct her and tell her that, "No, your color is caramel or it's cream." And she'd say, "No, my color is coconut because coconuts don't have a color." And I was like, oh my gosh, like how profound. All that one
Oh,
little
wow.
sentence is saying, I don't have to identify. I don't have to meet your standard. I don't have to choose. I'm going to be something totally unexpected and still amazing and different. It was just so much. She was already heaven sent, and they just didn't know, because nobody wants,
Yeah. An advanced soul. Yeah.
yeah, nobody was, heaven would be heaven without children. You just don't want it to be yours. And so I said, but
Yeah.
when we get
Right.
there, we get to play with them. Like, how cool. They'll be kids forever. So yeah, My Color's Coconut is a story that also highlights that. And again, the togetherness of the blended families. It was just probably 80% of the world now. So many families are blended from different walks, and loving on people and teaching them about the obviously preparedness for the end of our life too, because so many people don't have insurance because they're not sick or they're not old. And again, that's again about prosperity building, is to make sure that those things are in place. So think about a full service event, and that's what we are trying to offer to everyone. So
And is it like something, well, when is it? What is it, a certain time of year?
yes. So the vision for the event was to be March, June, September, and then November, because it was supposed to be a reflection of the seasons of life that we go through. And then things changed, and that's fine too. But our next event is going to be in June of 2023. Since the vision was born in Richmond, Virginia, that's always going to be our launching area. We're hoping it's going to be the weekend of Juneteenth, which will be June 17th. And then obviously, just like salvation, you're supposed to go into the highways and byways and compel men to come unto him. And that is what we're doing with the event as well, as God provides. So we've had the event, we've hosted it in Orlando, we've hosted it in Houston, we've hosted it in North Carolina, and we had hoped to take it to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to restore some hope and bring some economic, resources through the event and the vendors and situations, and also in Atlanta. But because of so many different situations, we had to postpone it until next year. So we're hoping for the relaunch of those. And again, you can't pour from empty cups. And we had to make sure that we came packing, if you will.
So when is it going to be in 2023? Where is it going to be? I mean,
so in 2023, it should be in Richmond, Virginia for June 17th.
That's so cool. So it travels. I just love that. All right.
It would be in September for Tulsa.
Okay.
And it's usually going to be the second Saturday, because the first of the month, everybody's paying their bills, they're focused.
Yeah.
Usually when you have a mid-month check, that's your play money.
Okay.
So we want them to come and patronize everyone, support them. So November, December, January, September. So that would be September 16th for Tulsa, Oklahoma.
All right. Is there one in November yet set?
And the one for November would be fall. It would fall on Veterans Day, November 11th.
Do you have a place?
We are hoping it will be Spelman University. I try to connect to churches and colleges. I'm trying to focus on HBCUs because clearly the message is to spread there and let it go abroad. And sometimes I have pushback, and sometimes I have open arms. I've had a couple of venues that were donated, but it's been sticky. So I don't have a space as of yet confirmed. We're hoping one of those schools there. I reached out to Clark Atlanta as well. Some other, other schools that had not been more well known.
Yeah.
One in Tulsa, the Greenwood Cultural Center. I'm not sure how many of your listeners have heard of the race massacre that happened there
Oh, yes.
100
Yeah.
years ago. So I
Yeah.
just felt extremely led to go there.
Right.
And
Right. That's why I was thinking while you
I want to
pinpointed that
take
one.
some buses, full of people that are
Yeah.
ready to come and support. And some of the locals that I've connected to have said so many people have moved away because they have not been able to rebuild and have the economics there that they needed to support themselves and their families. And so we want to be a catalyst for that change there, to let them
So
see.
I mean, you take your ideas and you find connections in these different cities, and they may or may not be vegan, or are they? I mean, so this is
Nope,
really
some of
interesting
them
to me.
are, some of them not. But in the conversations when I'm, connecting with the council members or someone that heads up one of these organizations, guess what they're going to hear about? They're going to hear about veganism. They're going to hear about why I want to come there. They're going to hear my story. So arbitrarily, it's like, oh, now they're being educated. Some of them may go grab something that's vegan. And I think the gentleman that was in charge of one of the centers that we were going to, he had heard of Slutty Vegan, but he'd never eaten there before. So guess what? He caught a plane the following weekend to go get some of that food.
Yeah, and if people have to see the food, this food is beautiful. They have the food, it really tastes good.
Yeah,
And it's not really about converting them, but it's certainly about, I'm sure, at least exposing them to that and giving them
exactly.
education so they can make a
Exactly.
choice.
That's who I am. I'm an educator. So, and even to my students, before I was fashioned in my own classroom with my own set of students, I kind of move around the school as a sub, and even still we have, this teacher shortages. So a lot of us are covering other folks' classes that we wouldn't ordinarily cover. So whenever I go into a classroom, just because I feel like we should always have a greeting and an introduction anyway. And I don't think a lot of times that happens with our young people, and that's where you have the rifts with relationships that
Hmm.
impede learning. I'm going to do the opposite. Good morning. I'm Mrs. Calloway. If you've never heard about me before, I have 3 fun facts I want to share. 1, I'm vegan. 2, military. And 3, I'm a published author. Now, how many friends in here have friends or family that are vegan or vegetarian? And I'm looking, oh my gosh, who are they? What do they do? How long are they vegan? And so most of the time I'm going to have at least 5 or 6 kids share that. And if not, do you know what veganism means? Well, this is what it means. And I don't go too far into that because I don't want to ever seem manipulative. And I say, if you
Right.
guys have questions, you can follow my social media pages. I cannot follow you back until you're an adult. You're 18 years old, graduated from high school, but you are welcome to join my show that I do on Tuesday nights called Try Tuesday. If you try an Impossible Burger or anything fun over this week and want to come talk about it. And then sometimes, even to my parent teacher conferences, I had one of my parents say, I've been wanting to try to do more plant-based. I've been, and it's like, we just have these opportunities that are provided to us once we put that out there into the atmosphere. This is what we want to do. And again, I always tell the kids, I'm not here to convince you to go vegan. I'm here to educate you so you can make that informed choice later in life if that's what you want. So,
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Now, I know you're familiar with the movie. I think it's called They're Trying to Kill Us,
yes,
about the food deserts.
yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Does that come, is that something that you're also working with?
Oh, so yes. So Jasmine Leyva is the producer of The Invisible Vegan, and John Lewis is the producer of They're Trying to Kill Us. So I have connected to both of them. As you know, to have speakers, you do have to have the funds to cover their lodging and travel expenses, which
Hmm.
a lot of times we don't have that. And it's not that we are hoping that someone has a connection to a corporate sponsor that hears our heart, and is
Hmm.
willing to
Hmm.
help support us in a way that is God size. I'll just say it like that. Because
Hmm.
if I can do it in my own strength, then it's not God size. So I want it to be God size.
Hmm.
But again, so I have talked to John. We had some tentative dates set. And then, of course, when we had to postpone, we have to get back on the calendar for next year. But wherever you find a food desert, Reverend Carol, you're going to find a book desert. And that was actually brought to my remembrance through a teacher conference. I had brought that up, talking about the food justice, obviously, because that connects to me. Food justice is, all the things that we are doing and empowering people through. And it was like, that makes so much sense, Dove and Netta. Where you
Hmm.
find a food desert, you will find a book desert. So just imagine this food truck that has the Black Vegan Experience or community consciousness on it, because it's not just about the large events. The large event is to cover expenses for the whole year. We just have not been able to do that just yet. We need to raise at least $100,000 a year to do 4 consecutive events. But on the perimeters of those larger
Wow.
events, here we are. I just did an outreach last Saturday, and it was a connection to a church called Liberation Church in the Richmond, Virginia area. Amazing organization out there making a difference. Not that my church, Destination Church, is doing their thing too, but they have a different they have different forms of outreaches that I can connect to differently because of my schedule and those opportunities. So I cannot say it's not a coincidence, because nothing in life is a coincidence. I believe everything is divine. So we were not able to have our event at the Flying Squirrel Stadium this past year because of the threat of thunderstorms. Well, I was able to connect with Liberation Church because I had gone there as a vendor to share about my nonprofit for some concert they were having that I don't even remember why I was there. But I never forget that space and how amazing everyone there. They just seemed to operate as a team and it was so professional. So when we had to cancel it outside, that was my go-to. And so many people were like, that's not going to happen. They don't allow people to come from outside. And I was like, well, I already got it. And it was like, oh my God. The night before the event, it was just, you can imagine the chaos that ensued, but God, he worked it out. He was faithful. But I learned thereafter, one, it was exciting to see the parishioners from the church and, other volunteers who had never tried vegan food or really had an opportunity to learn more about it, taking the little wrappers and taking pictures and sticking them in their pocket because they were going to go look for it after the event was over. And how do I find this? And it was just so exciting to see them excited, about something unique. The people in line for the food demo samples. And then to learn that this church actually has a homeless veteran shelter, that they have a food pantry where they give away food, where they do outreaches every month in the neighborhoods surrounding the church, where they take food and they take resources for women and babies and things. And I'm like, well, Lord, I don't have to keep going by myself. I can tag team, with this organization. I'm a believer. I may not be going to, evangelize. Actually, I am. It's just in a different way. But you know what I'm saying? And so it just became awesome. And so now I go, and New Vegan Cafe here in Richmond, Virginia has been amazing. They were a sponsor for us in May for our event here. And they have been a continual provider of the food for me to give to people who are coming out to try vegan food. So not only are we probably feeling a need where they may have been hungry, but we're also feeling a need of nutritious food. It's soul food, but it's plant-based. And so I'm educating, I'm feeding them, and letting God just use me. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, I love that. And I know in my own life, there's times I want to give to food banks, but I really want to give to food banks that are healthy or that, are plant-based, that just,
Yes.
and it's not easy to find. So this would be a
No.
great place. Anybody who wants to donate can donate to the Black Vegan Experience, or do they donate to
Committee of
the
Consciousness.
Committee of Consciousness?
And
Yeah.
through that, we will
Okay.
always find channels. And what was amazing, before I had to come back into the classroom full time, we had people that would just walk past our fruits and vegetables because they didn't know what they were. They didn't know how to cook them or eat them. And guess who was there? Let me tell you all about this. And this does this, and this does this, and you can cook it this way. And what else do you have? And I actually had people who did not have cook for us. I was like, well, because they were from the Middle East or they were from Brazil. And it was like, well, what do you do with yours? I was like, I'm never going to say no. I'm going to pray over it, thank God for it, bless it, and enjoy. And so I had people that were bringing food back that they had never fixed. Or had not had the opportunity to cook because now they had the fruits and vegetables that they really couldn't usually go get. And it was just really fun. And of course, if they were bringing it because I asked for it, who else got the blessing? All the other volunteers. So
Love
when
it.
God gives you favor, all those people you touch receive favor too.
I love that. That's wonderful. This is great stories. And I love that you're going around the country. So we've got to get you to come to Chicago and Kansas City. And
That's what I want to do everywhere. I want to go to I will go to every US state and territory. So you have to think about the Virgin Islands and Hawaii. We got Puerto Rico. And I've tried Puerto Rican and Hawaiian vegan food.
oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like there's a special anointing over.
Everything Hawaiian is nice, except for the pig roast.
And the
Oh,
prices.
oh gosh, I just love this. And I mean, so you're going quarterly. Do you envision there being simultaneous Black vegan experiences going on all over the place quarterly?
I have not yet.
Okay.
What I have learned since I've been able to move around in this a little bit longer is that there are other organizations that are aligned to the same purposes as me, not exactly the same, because I feel like mine, I always want to have a faith component, even if it's just making
Yeah.
sure we have clergy there that is going to bless the food and offer prayer, to someone that may be there in need who wouldn't ordinarily go into a church. But still, there could be some collaborations where it's not just, me, but maybe some of the Afro vegan societies, the Latin vegan societies coming together to help partner and do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Then we
Well,
might have some spontaneous bursts, but then I couldn't be it all in now. I want to.
that would be, you'd have to kind of zoom in at all
Yeah,
these different
exactly.
ones, get the camera up and say, "Hey, Vonetta." Yeah. So well, I think that I love your story. I love your inspiration. I love being around you. You are, you have an infectious spirit, and it is because you're so God-centered and you really are firmly grounded in faith, and you're just love exuding. You're just the expression of love. So, this is just going to keep going and being amazingly successful. I mean, I just can't see anything but great, great things. But I want to give you the last word. Is there anything else you want to share with who's listening?
I just would implore you guys, one, to keep me and my family in prayer, along with everyone else that is a part of Committee of Consciousness and the Black Vegan Experience, because these are men and women who have jobs and businesses that are giving up their time to help. I can't pay a staff yet. But if you want to be part of this movement, support us, follow our pages. All of our information is there. We are 501c3, so you can write off your donations. If you have associates or friends and family that are connected to corporate America, let them know what we're doing. Become a part of it. Volunteer. Be connected. Send your resources. Sam is going to take it if you have too much, so you might as well give it away in advance and just be blessed.
I love that. So we'll include all of your links on the podcast page, and we'll just, we'll just know that out of this lands on, there's ears to hear, and that I just see that you're doing an abundance of donations, and just really anybody who's lit up about this vision, which I am, I want to come. I'm thinking of which one am I going to come to?
It'll be fun. We'll make sure you have a full belly.
I'll have to pick one of my daughters to come. Well, I'll be figuring that out. So, but thank you, Vonetta, so much for, thank you for being alive. Thank you for being, God's ambassador, and for being an angel. Like I said, it's infectious, and I'm just so excited about what you're doing, and I appreciate your sharing with me today.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to being in one of your spiritual retreats too, and that'll be a blast. God will retire me from this job when it's in his timing. Until then,
Yeah.
I keep sharing with all the young people and the teachers, even when they don't want to smile.
Yeah, well, I've got some thoughts about that, so how I can get you involved. So we'll talk about that later.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so thank you, Vonetta, and thank you everyone for listening. And I now close the Spiritual Forum.